Hello students, Mr. Greg here. I hope you are doing well. Got a pretty exciting lesson for you today. We're going to expand on our virtual world. Hopefully by now you have created your measuring rod and you're able to make it move up and down, but I think we can do better than that, and I think we need to make it a little more visually appealing. And by doing that, we need to give our viewer a little bit of scale. I mean, we tell them, as you can see, the distance is around 12.8 inches, but it may be difficult for them to understand that. And as the distance changes, we want to give them some perspective. And so I would suggest that we create a virtual ruler to go with our measurement, and then as that changes, we can change the see if I can pull mine back here. Yeah, we can, the measuring rod changes and the graduation change as I get closer and further away. And so it makes a little bit of sense on distance, but it would make more sense on something like altitude or heat or something like that. And it's just a matter of hooking that sensor up, programming it correctly, and creating the virtual world that makes sense there. So that's what we're going to do today. So get your sonic sensor hooked up, turn on your Python code, load where we were before, and we're going to add to it. Okay, so I've pulled up the the Python code where we left it last. And one of the things I decided to do, because I did some experimenting since my last video, and I decided to make my scene width and height a little bit bigger. So I'm actually going to change these to 1,000, and you can mess around with this and change it to whatever you like. You probably can make a better scene than I have, but at least I want to show you how I've done that. Alright, so that looks pretty good here. We've got our data, all of that. We're communicating with our Arduino. We've got a little bit of pause. You notice I have notes, and I will deduct if you do not have notes. I have created my measuring rod. We did that early on. And now I want to create my ruler. So I'm going to create an object, and I'm going to call it ruler. Got to be pretty original to think of that. All right, so the ruler is really a box, right? I mean, it's this square. It's relatively flat, but it's still a box because it has height to it, although it's not very large. So I'm going to create a box, and let's think about this. My ruler, so my cylinder or my measuring rod, which is a cylinder, starts at -20, but that's the starting point, right? And that's the way I set it up, because I want it to start there and then grow from that point. But my ruler is not a variable. It's going to be a stationary object, and it's going to start at the 0, 0, 0 of our virtual world. So, you know, we should probably take a look at this. Let me get this set up. So I have our trusty graph paper here. And you remember in our virtual world, let's see here. we have our y-axis here, and then we have our x-axis, and then we have our z-axis, which runs in and out of the paper, right? So our measuring rod is over here at -20 is where it starts, and then as our sonic sensor detects distance, it adds to that -20. And so that's how we started it, right? But the middle of our page is actually this 0, 0, 0. So when I create an object, it's going to start at this center point and expand in each direction. So if I want my ruler to begin where my measuring rod begins, then I need to go in this direction 20 units, in our case 20 inches, right? And then if you remember correctly, we set our total range for 40, and so I need my ruler to go in this direction around 20. So that means the total length of my ruler will be 40 units, or 40 inches in this case. And so this is why it's important for you to understand the Cartesian graph, with obviously, you know, this being plus, plus, and this being minus, and so forth. Because as you draw things in a virtual world, you're going to need to understand how to move it up, down, in and out, left and right. And so you've got to understand the spatial concept. So if we look back on our code here, our ruler box, we've determined should have a length of 40. So I'm going to set that length equal to 40. Go ahead and give it a color. So color is equal to color dot, I'm gonna make it blue. So I need to give our ruler a height. It doesn't need to be s lower h. Doesn't need to be very high. Rulers are not very high, so I messed around with this before the video, and so I figured out a 0.1 height was pretty good. Then it needs to have a width. So let's think about this. The radius of our measuring rod is 1 inch, and I want to be able to see the ruler. I don't want the measuring rod to cover it up, and so I want my ruler to be wider than my measuring rod. So a radius of 1 inch means that the diameter is 2 inches, and I'd probably like the ruler to stick out 1 inch on each side, so I'm going to give it a width of 4. All right, and then I want to position it correctly, and so I need to create a vector to do that. All right, let's think. I want the ruler x-axis, I want it right on the center line of the x-axis. On the y-axis, I've got my measuring rod directly on the y-axis, and so I want my ruler to be below that. And if I want the measuring rod to appear to be sitting on the ruler, and my radius is 1 inch, then I probably should make my ruler -1. inch, right? That way it'll be sitting right on top of my ruler. Maybe even a little bit in it, but it won't matter because you won't be able to see that part, and it should look pretty good. And then my Z dimension, I don't want it in or out. There is my position vector. Then I got to remember to close my other parentheses. And so this creates my ruler. Hopefully. In fact, why don't we just take a look at that and verify it by hitting Run Module. Yes, I will save it. It is opening up. Oh, I got an error, but it looks pretty good here. That is what we're looking for. So you should be to this point where you've created this virtual ruler. And I got an error, and I know why, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So I'm going to exit out of here. All right. That looks good. So now, all right, well that looked pretty good. So now we want to make our little tick marks so that we can understand how far our measuring rod is moving. And those tick marks are approximately an inch from each other. And so I'm going to make this here. Make another space. All right, so we want to make a mark. In my brilliance, I'm going to call it mark. And it is equal to, well, it's really a box, right? It's just a little small box. Length. And that length, I don't want it very big. I got about an inch showing there. I kind of messed around with this, so I'm going to say 0.2 on that. I want the color to be white. You can choose a different color if you'd like. Alright, so I want it to be its width. Let's think about this. I want to be able to see it, so I would say we might change this, but I'll say our width should be around 2. Our height, H-E-I-G-H-T, we just want it to be visible on the ruler. So I would say our height should be about 0.1. Now importantly, where do we want it to be? We want it to be a vector. Vector. Let's try that again. Vector. Alright, so our ruler starts at -20. Alright, yeah. Well, our ruler, or really our measuring rod, starts at -20. And we want our first tick mark to be 1 inch along, and so that would be -19, right? On our x-axis. So at -19, and then we want it to hover just above the ruler, so it looks like it's on top. And our ruler is positioned here at -1, so I'm going to have our tick mark at -0.9. And I hope you understand that, because that's closer to the center, right? So I'm moving up slightly on our x-axis. And then on the z-axis, I don't want it to be right in the center, because if I'm right in the center, on the center line, then you won't be able to see it because it'll be covered up by the cylinder. And so I need to move it towards us, actually out of the screen towards us, so that you can see it. And I'm going to move it an inch like that. We can just see how this looks. I'm going to end that because I always fail to do that and I get an error. And I would say run this and see how it looks. Okay. Come on. Oh, yeah. I see something. I like it. That looks pretty good. And if I had this thing about an inch, it probably would work. See if I can move this around and get about an inch. Well, that is pretty cool right there. How about that? 90. Oh. Wow. That is cool. Let's make another one. Let's see here. Exit out of this. Sorry, I've got 3 screens and sometimes I go off the screen. Yes. Kill you. Okay, so I could just take this and copy it. Control C. Hit enter. Hit Control V. Copy it. But I want to change this to -18. And that should get me my next one. Let's just run it and see. Come on. It's looking pretty good. Yes. How about that? Now I could continue to do that all the way down till I got to +40, but that would be a lot of code and a lot of extra work. And so I think the better way of doing this. So I'm going to create a variable. We'll just call it X. Big X, be fine. And we'll say X equals -18. That creates a variable. Then I'm going to while statement, right? So I'm going to say, not a couple, lowercase while, parentheses, X, oop, I got to do large X, X is less than, that's not, less than 20, right? Because we want to go to +20. So -17 is less than +20. And we're going to end that in a colon, right? So what does this do? It creates a while loop for the graduations or tick marks, right? So while X is less than 20, what do we want to do? And notice the spacing there. Well, we want to add, capital X, X is equal to X plus 1. So we want to add that, right? And then we want to create the mark. I probably could have just copied this, but we won't. Length equal to 0.2. I'm copying it. Color is equal to color y width is equal to 2. Height is equal to 0.1. position is equal to a vector. But instead of saying minus 18, minus 17, we want to say it is equal to capital X, right? Because then that will change as our variable changes. So then, of course, we want them all to be at 0.9, negative 0.9, at 1 on the z-axis. Change here. It seems to like it. Why don't we run it and see what happens? Run module. Okay. Come on. Look at there. Now we've got them all the way down. And notice it ends right here at our 40th tick mark, or positive 20. Now if I move this, oh, I got an error because I ran it too fast. Darn it. Hopefully you're not getting these errors. I've got a lot going on my computer. Let's see if we run it again. All right, so that looks pretty good. Can change this, move this around. What happens if I point it way over here? Oh, well, that ain't good. Pointing at the wall though. Look at there. It's pretty accurate. How about that? That's pretty cool, but I don't like that right there. So we may have to fix that. But I think that is pretty darn cool, if I say so myself. All right, so this is your homework. Your homework is to create the ruler, create the graduation marks, add some cool stuff to your virtual world. There's no reason why you couldn't add a picture of your sonic sensor. Do that, dazzle me. Take a picture, screen print of your work, send it to me, send me your code. Let me know that you got this done. And then next week we will add the numbers to it, and we'll fix the measuring rod going past our ruler. So as usual, if you have any questions, give me a call, and I will be glad to help you. We'll talk to you later.